Good morning, good morning. It is another sunny day. I think we've had 3, 4, 5 in a row, maybe even 6. We did not have more than 2 in a row all summer. We were lucky to have 1. So this feels absolutely glorious. And because we're sunny and things are starting to dry out, we're really getting to investigate the seeds that are usually dispersed by wind, because now they're drying and poofing. That's my very scientific term for what we're seeing here. These have all been just big mats of wet material, and we couldn't tell how the seed development was. And I've told you already that our growing degree days this year have been very low, so we're seeing some of our resilient plants here, like some of the goldenrods, not having developed their seeds. I think that's the first time ever since we've been here, so 13 years. This aster, however, did develop seeds. Let's see. Okay, come on. Come on, little camera. There we go. Okay, for 1 second, I think you got to see that on the end of those floofs, the white tufts that allow them to disperse via wind, there were little tan dots, and those are the seeds. Now, this aster here is a native aster that seeded themselves. It's a really wonderful patch that I have fostered, and Steve loves it. He was so glad that we did this. It's right here in the area where we used to have more of the plant nursery, right next to our shade house, our green barn, and then our beds where we're growing some greens. And this area was just kind of nothing space, and this aster started coming in, and I just noticed how many blooms there were. I think you can tell by how many seed heads there are, and the blooms were covered in pollinators. And so we thought, wow, that's really cool. Now, we worked on identification on this one. It's definitely one of the white native asters that likes sun, but I'm not quite positive which one. We've been working through the aster keys, because asters can be somewhat difficult. You're often looking at the phyllaries, which are the bracts on the outside of the plants. And you need a loop or a hand lens to be able to see that. Here goes the ups, man. Jeez. Kick it down. That's what Steve always says. And so you look at those phyllaries, and then you look at different colors and shapes that are on the phyllaries. And this one doesn't quite match any of them. It's closest to lance-leaved aster. And when I dug into that plant, I saw that there's all kinds of subspecies and varieties, and that they interbreed with one another. And I thought, okay, so that's what's happening. So most likely this is lance-leaved aster. It's not all aster, which is what I had thought at first. But the phyllaries are not all shaped. And then this aster does spread by rhizomes. So in many people's minds, it would probably fall under a weedy aster species, because most humans don't like rhizotomous plants. And that just means that this plant spreads by root runners. So you can see some of the new leaves coming up. I can understand, because these plants don't like to be controlled, which is kind of like me, maybe a lot of you too, and so they don't, quote, behave. In my opinion, for a lot of our lands, plants like this aren't misbehaved, and they're not weedy, they're resilient, and we embrace resilient plants here, because if you look here, you already see our green barn. There's all this gravel under my feet. There's grass that's grown up through it, but this barn was shaped all around. There's probably fill on here. This is just not what you would say is your most beautiful soil area. The land has been used, and plants that can deal with that and help build up soil and replenish the nutrients and invite all of the soil microbes back in are embraced by us. Not only does it do that with the soil, it feeds all those pollinators I already mentioned, and since the seeds developed this year, this plant will feed many, many birds and mammals. So we will see goldfinches in here, different sparrows like white-throated sparrows. There will be dark-eyed juncos in here this winter, and numerous others. So it's a very beneficial plant and beautiful too. It's hard to really capture in this image here, but these white floofy seed heads are gorgeous, and when all the white flowers are in bloom, this thing is just a mass of blooms. So resilient plants totally get a high five from us, and we embrace their hardiness. And I know the birds and the pollinators and the soil do too.